last week actually, and it's funny because I didn't realize it until my social media feed was all like flooded with it. But the BET Hip Hop Awards was on this week, and so everyone knows that's been on for about 11 years now. I think it's the 11th edition of it, and we all, and like for the most part, we all watch performances to see who won which award, who won the Lifetime Achievement Award, all that good stuff. But of course, I think a favorite staple of everyone's within the show is the BET ciphers, all right, and that was no exception this year. I mean, in past years, like you've had ciphers that included just clicks. So you had the Good Music cipher, you had the Shady Slaughterhouse cipher, all these different ciphers basically. Like there were some classic ones in the back, but I think the cipher from this year that involved Eminem, I'm not gonna call it an instant classic, but it may be up there as far as the most memorable because of what he was saying and who he was saying it to. And I'm talking about Donald Trump. So basically, Eminem spent about 4.5 minutes just spitting a cappella about Donald Trump and how bad of a president that he is, and also kind of drew a line in the sand basically as far as if you're a fan of mine and you support Donald Trump, then you're gonna have to choose. Is it gonna be my music or is it gonna be Donald Trump? And if you do support Donald Trump, then F you basically is what he said. So a lot of people started talking about it. Like I said before, it invaded my timeline. And while some people were celebratory of Eminem for speaking up in regards to, you know, Colin Kaepernick or kneeling for the flag or anything of the sort, there were some detractors, and I'm not talking about, you know, the typical right-wing Republicans or alt-right movement or whatever, talking about how this guy should be investigated or he's being disrespectful or whatever. I'm actually talking about certain people of color who view Eminem and say, oh, well, he's not the right one to say it. But then I got confused because this entire time, whenever, let's just say the NFL, for example, we're talking about players kneeling and what have you, so many people have been asking, hey, how come the white players aren't kneeling? Do they not stand for what Kaepernick believes in and what a lot of other black players believe in as well as far as freedom and rights and what have you? But then you have a guy like Eminem who is one of the biggest rappers ever in history from an underground standpoint and from a mainstream standpoint, who's also a white rapper, who is actually using his white privilege to his advantage by speaking up with the black community. Not for the black community, but with the black community. So he's standing in solidarity. He's not saying, hey, I'm the leader of this ship. He's saying, hey, I'm going to speak with you guys on what you guys have been saying. That's basically what he did in that freestyle. But then some people of color, some black people, let's be honest, were nitpicking and saying, oh, well, he should have done it this way, or I've heard better from him, or it should have been someone else, or he only did it because he's white. If this were Kendrick Lamar or somebody else, then nobody would hear it. This is where we get into semantics, okay? You can't ask for one thing and then get it and then pick apart why you don't like it. You got what you were looking for. Why are you still speaking against it? This is what you've been asking for the longest time. Someone who is white, who has a high stature and a very large mantle, to actually use his privilege for the greater good. He did that, but then now there's a problem. Listen, guys, listen. Like, for the black people who do appreciate what Eminem did, I'm not targeting this towards you. You guys already know. You guys already know. You don't even need to be hearing this right now, but you can if you want. I appreciate that. But for the black people who don't support what Eminem did, what more do you want? You keep saying people outside our community need to feel empathy towards us. We have plenty of people who do this. And then you also have people saying, oh, well, Eminem probably has a new album coming out, so that's why he did this. It's all publicity stunt. It can be partially publicity, sure, but let's keep in mind that this isn't the first time that Eminem has been political. It isn't the first time that Eminem has stood in solidarity with other black people and other people of color in regards to inequalities. I mean, his song White America basically dissected white privilege from when white artists used to steal black music up until today. He's been talking about this. He talked about this in the song Mosh, where he was talking about how you need to vote for the right people to lead office. That was basically his campaign trail for, I think it was John Kerry back in 2004 when he was running against George Bush for president during Bush's second term. So he's been talking about this. He even talked about this in the song Without Me, the one that was on the Eminem show. There's even a section in his third verse where he's talking about how some white artists have used black music to appropriate the culture and how he's not about that. Like, he made fun of Elvis in the video for doing that. So, again, this isn't the first time that Eminem has taken a political stance, a socio-political stance at that. This isn't somebody who is using the culture for his own benefit and then is just dipping. Eminem's been rapping for 20 years. I think people seem to forget that. He's been active in the game since 1996 and hasn't stopped since. Whereas somebody like, oh, I don't know, let's say Miley Cyrus, decided to be twerk queen of America, and they discarded the music earlier this year because hip-hop was a bad influence on her life. You should be mad at her, if anything, for being a cultural appropriator in that regard. You should get mad at somebody like, I wouldn't say this fully because we haven't seen what she's going to do yet, but maybe somebody like Taylor Swift, who just kind of recently jumped on the hip-hop bandwagon about 2 or 3 years ago and has been using a lot of hip-hop imagery within her videos and even within her songs because she's now a full-out pop star. Again, that one is a little iffy. We have to wait to see what she continues to do with that, if she does, in fact. But someone like Eminem does not deserve the title of a cultural appropriator because at the end of the day, he has done nothing but uplift the hip-hop community. He's been doing that since 1996, and he hasn't stopped. I mean, if it weren't for him, you can make the case that battle rapping wouldn't be as popular as it is today. Now, mind you, you had Freestyle Fridays with AJ and Free on 106 and Park. That was very popular as well. And then you have the earlier emergence of the Smack DVDs that came out in 2003. But Eminem put that on the mainstream level when he put out 8 Mile. Like, that is a fact. Like, no one can ever deny that. So he's done a lot for the hip-hop community. I think he was the first artist in hip-hop ever to have a Oscar-nominated hip-hop record. Before him, that hadn't happened before. I don't think he won that year, though, because I think he was just nominated, but I don't think he would win that song. I think it was 3 6 Mafia, who was actually the first ones to actually win the award when they did it for, what was it called? Something Hustle. Hustle and Flow, there we go, yeah. So, anyways, just to bring it all back, once you finally, and let's not call him a white savior, because I don't think it derives from the white savior complex. This is somebody who loves and cares deeply for the culture. This guy could have dipped away a long time ago from Dr. Dre and did something else because he blew up in rap like nobody else has done it at that time, at the very least. But he stuck with it. Even when he put out rap albums that weren't that good, he still had it in his heart to continue the genre. So I feel like people need to keep that in mind. I feel like the people who are calling him a culture appropriator of sorts haven't listened to his music extensively. They may have heard a single here and there where he's just poking fun at like Britney Spears or Fred Durst or whatever. But once you actually listen to his discography and figure out what his music is all about, take away all like the metaphors about him not liking his mom and what have you. Plus, we've heard worse in hip-hop songs before. And if I can quote Tupac, he once said, "My fofo, make sure all your kids don't grow." Then I'm sure you can understand where Eminem is coming from. Like, he's a troubled soul, but at the end of the day, even despite his whiteness, he still loves his culture, and he proved that in that freestyle, and he's proven that on many occasions before. So I think people really need to settle down with all these accusations of cultural appropriation. It's easy to throw that term at a white rapper when it's most convenient for people, but people don't know when that term actually has validity to it. So I think people need to keep that in mind. Do you guys agree with me? Do you guys disagree with me? Hit me up on Twitter at DM_cool or cool_radio. And let me know your thoughts.